news on, you're like, oh yeah, they almost extinguished the world today. Oh, okay. And I'm worried about who's lip syncing. But maybe it is good to be blissfully ignorant about everything else and just kind of worry about more minor things like that. Who's actually playing live at concerts? It's crazy too, because along those lines, I got a text just a little while ago from Joey Allen, guitar player from Warrant, who's been on this show. He was on with us recently, actually. We had a great conversation shooting the shit. I think it was on this show, or did we do that on Hair Nation? Might have been on Hair Nation. Joel, did we?
No,
have
we
Joey
talked
Allen
to
here.
Yeah, we talked to him here.
Oh, okay. Did I run that on Hair Nation? I gotta find. If you didn't send that to John, make sure you do, please. It was a little while ago, but that was a great conversation with Joey. Because again, he was coming on not to talk about anything specific, just to kind of shoot the shit. And those are great, great conversations. But Joey just sent me ironic. So this is very ironic. So I've told you guys there is a British dude on YouTube. Happy Thursday, everybody, by the way. And we've got a guest today, by the way, and he is a completely real live artist. Jared James Nichols will be joining us in a little bit. We're going to have a lot of time for your calls today, too. So we're definitely going to get a lot of free-for-all action as we wrap up the live portion of the week today. Great guests yesterday with Carmine Appice joining us, Fred Corey joining us. So if you missed that stuff, go ahead and grab it on the app. You know the drill on that. And we're already at the end of July, if you can believe it. But I got a text from Joey at this, just out of nowhere, like 15 minutes ago. And it was that clip of Elton John, who was at an award show, and he was giving an award to Madonna for best live performance, and he went off. One of the great hero moments for all of us that are defenders of and champions for for a rock show, for a live rock show actually being live. It was one of the great hero moments in history. You know what, Joel? I'm going to send you that right now so you have it conveniently, because we should play. This can't be played enough, in my opinion. Wait, I'm going to try to send this to Joel. Hold on. Should have done it before. I don't know. Joey sent me this off Instagram. I don't know how to forward an Instagram here.
Send it to the show account. Just share it, and then I'll pull it.
I don't even know how you do that.
That little arrow button.
I know. That's what I'm doing. So I think I know. So I'm going to the little arrow, and then I hit Trunk Nation SXM, right?
Yep.
And then it shows me these posts you made of Carmine, but it doesn't show me a way to send that.
Huh.
Not a big deal. Anyway, Joey sent that tremendous video to me earlier of Elton John, who basically went off because he had to give Madonna an award for best live performance. And he just said, he laughed, and he's literally on the podium. And he goes, I just think it's bullocks that we're giving a best live performance award to someone who lip syncs. He goes, I think it's awful that people spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars to hear shows that aren't actually live. This was a long time ago. The balls on Elton John. Hero moment of hero. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he said it on stage at a podium at an award show. So, Joey, we got into some of this talk with Joey when he was on, And, you know, he knows how I am about that, and he's the same way. And he had said to me, you know, I'm assuming you saw this. And I said, oh, yeah, that's made the rounds many times. Joel, the account on Instagram is called Classic Rock Moments in History, if you end up finding it.
Well, I'm just pulling up. There are tons of clips of it. I've got one right here. I'll play real quick just so everyone can hear it.
There's no news today, folks. Hold on, Joel. Hold on. There's no news today, you guys. Just there's literally no rock news today. So it's good that we can have this kind of fun to get the show started. There's nothing. There's like bizarre, like there's nothing going on worth really mentioning in news. Yesterday there was a lot. Today's fairly quiet. We'll get Jared in a few minutes, then we'll get to your calls. But Joel, okay, so Joel, you found the clip. If you've not heard this, and I've played it before, again, it is brilliant. For all of Elton John's incredible songs and performances over the decades, this might be my favorite thing he's ever done. Roll it, Joel.
Madonna, best fucking live act. Fuck off. Since when has lip syncing been live? Sorry about that, but I think everyone who lip syncs in public on stage when you pay like 75 quid to see them should be shot. Thank you very much.
Elton John, hero of heroes of heroes. Not for writing unbelievable songs. Forget about that Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting and Benny and the Jets. That is one of the greatest and most spot-on things I ever heard. Joel, is there a date on that? What year was that?
It's 2014.
So that's 12 years ago at a British award show.
No, I'm sorry, even longer. I read that wrong. 2004.
Okay, so that's 22 years ago. And do you know, since Sir Elton John did that brilliantly, boldly, how much worse it's gotten? It's gotten 1,000 times worse, right? Technology, ease of doing it, hiding it better, whatever. That is so brilliant and so spot on. And you know what's amazing? Like when you hear the audience reaction, right? Like initially they're like, ah, ha, ha. And then he goes, I just think it's bullshit that people lip sync or whatever for, and you hear him go, the audience go, oh. Like, why aren't they applauding that too? Like, is there anybody out there that thinks, yeah, it's great that I spent $500 for a ticket to hear a laptop? I mean, people like what Elton John did there is he should be beyond celebrated. Instead, it's only gotten worse. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because randomly, Joey, the two things that have been making the rounds lately on the internet, there's things that get posted on the internet and they, they're old. Like that's old. That's 22 years old. But all of a sudden, some account somewhere picks it up, starts circulating again. People start talking about it again. If it has any traction or merit or anything. Just like whoever's circulating the clips of my old TV show, That Metal Show. They're posting clips. It's great. I love it. People are talking about it again. The other one is this photo that like in the last 24 hours, like 7 people have sent to me. And I just reposted on Instagram and my X account as well of me in a room with Paul Stanley and Ace Frehley in 1987. I'll get to that in a second. But the irony of Joey sending me that today was that he literally texted that to me while I was watching a video on this YouTube channel that I've mentioned before called Wings of Pegasus. Now, you guys often say, like, hey, with all these people that are lip syncing and people that know who's doing it and whatever, why don't more people do what Elton John just did, whether they're me or artists or whatever? And I've explained why, because you've got to work with these people. To me, it's a very serious allegation. You've got to be 100% sure it's happening. And, again, there are other reasons why others don't do it, because they may work for someone who won't allow you to do it, things like that. Politics of things, working situations. So this guy, this British dude on YouTube, and I cannot encourage you more highly or more strongly to go to YouTube and search this guy's channel and watch it. Again, the name of the channel on YouTube is Wings of Pegasus. And this guy who clearly knows audio, young guy, but he clearly knows audio, waveforms, computers, what people are doing. I guess he's a musician himself there in England. He shows you right in black and white, right with waveforms and audio, exactly what's happening with some of these people. And he even talks about that some of the managers and reps for these people that he is showing what's going on are freaking out, and some of them do copyright strikes on his channel to remove the audio or video. He's using audio and video shot by people at concerts that normally would just be left on there. But because the artists are being exposed, they are having their managers do a copyright thing and get it pulled down. It's unbelievable. So I'm watching him, and it's indisputable. You can see, like, he'll show you the waveform and pull like 3 different shows, and the waveform is identical. That is humanly impossible to do unless it's a recording that's being played every night. So just go watch what that guy's doing, and you're going to see what everyone's doing. And he's been doing it for a while. He's doing God's work, that kid. But it was just so funny that I'm watching this. I was watching his latest post, which was on the Eagles. I'll leave it at that. And he says, look, I'm just telling you what's happening from a technological standpoint. He goes, you make of it what you will. I'm just showing you what's happening. You do what you will with it. But it's fascinating. And then that thing comes in from Joey. I'm like, what is happening here? Speaking of AI, are we like all interconnected? Did Joey know I was watching this on YouTube and out of nowhere? It was so odd. It was like he was in the room with me. Anyway, and then of course we sign on the show and you hear that Duff McKagan in that drop saying real recognizes real or whatever. It's crazy. So anyway, welcome to a Thursday. That photo, if you've seen it, and I put it on my Instagram, that has been making the rounds in the last 24 hours. It's funny, I've seen a lot of people write about that photo, when it was, where it was, and asking me is that really you? Is that AI? Is that a young, obviously it's long time ago. Yes, it is me in that photo. And yes, if you look, it's a photo of that. I don't even know who took it, from 1987. And it is at that point, 23-year-old me. I was probably 22, 23 in the photo. And I'm standing there next to Ace Frehley, who I had just started working with at the time. And he's talking to Paul Stanley. And if you look sitting on the sofa between Paul and Ace, you can see Johnny Z, the owner of Megaforce Records, sitting on that sofa very clearly. So it was clearly a post-Ace Frehley concert, but I can't remember where. I thought it might have been the Limelight, which was a club in New York City that Ace did play at, and Gene and Paul turned up and did play with them, play one song with Ace that night. But I don't think that's what it's from. I think somebody did a little search and found that the date of that, which was sometime in 1987, Ace played a show at the Beacon Theater in New York. Now, if you've never been to the Beacon Theater, or you have been, the Beacon Theater does not have really any real backstage accommodations. It's a big old theater, but you go up staircases and there's little dressing rooms as you go up. There's not like a big backstage hang area. So historically, what would happen at the Beacon Theater, and I'm sure still does to this day, is there was a club right next door to it that went under kind of an underground club. I think it was the China Club. I don't know if it's still called that. And what we used to do whenever there were shows at the Beacon is the artist would have and receive their guests or do an after party at the China Club, because it was literally right down the stairs. Different place, not associated, but super convenient, and you could be in a club. I'm pretty sure that was in the China Club under the Beacon, especially if it was on a date that Ace played the Beacon, because just looking at that photo and that room, I don't remember and don't think the Beacon had any room that looked anything like that. But yeah, on more than one occasion, Paul and Gene would come to an Ace show. They did it a couple times. One time they got up and played. And all those that time in the late 80s when I was working with Ace and he was doing those first solo records, those guys were keeping an eye on what he was doing. They were curious. I mean, they had pretty much written him off to have any success, but he was doing all right, and they were kind of curious. And I got to think, and I don't know this for a fact, but I got to think in retrospect that they were probably keeping an eye on him with kind of an eye towards what they ended up doing, which was reuniting with him. I mean, even then, 87, 88, they were feeling the absence of the original members, in the sense that their live draws were not always great everywhere. And ultimately, in 96, of course, 30 years ago, that led to them bringing the Makeup and Ace and Peter back, which I've said before, I don't think Kiss would be looked at the way Kiss is looked at right now if that reunion didn't happen 30 years ago. It elevated everything. And I'm not saying that, again, with any disrespect to the non-Makeup members or lineups, because I love those records and lineups too. Just spent time talking about it with Jericho the other day. He was on with us on Tuesday. But yeah, it's a really cool photo. I love photos like that. Obviously it wasn't posed, it wasn't staged. I don't know who took it, but it pops up here and there all the time. And it's a pretty cool little time capsule there. And I've just got like my head turned and I'm looking at Paul talking to Ace, and being a Kiss fan and being in the record business professionally at that point on the label side for about a year. I mean, pretty surreal moment for me. Half of my hero band is standing right there, and one of the guys I'm, working on his records. I mean, that's just surreal stuff still for me now to look back on and to see, and right there in front of me. Crazy. So whoever pumped that back out there, thank you. And a lot of people have asked me about it in the last day or two, and that's all I know about it. I'm not even 100% sure where it came from, but I think. Joel, what are you saying here? So the Joey Allen interview was on Hair Nation.
Yeah, it was Hair Nation. I think we might have put it out as a podcast, or we talked about it. Either way, it was in my head. I had remembered you did it, so I just thought naturally it was our show, but it was Hair Nation.
Yeah, I know I sent it to you to put out as a podcast. I don't know if we ever did it. So if you have the audio, maybe we'll do that in the next week or two so people can hear that again there. That might be, I don't know if we ever posted it, but we'll see. We'll look and see. We do put out a podcast, by the way, as you probably figured out, every Thursday. So today is a podcast day. I think we put out Taylor Momsen and Tesla today, since they're both on tour right now. I'll be seeing the Pretty Reckless and AC/DC, of course, this coming Saturday here in Vegas. They're playing Allegiant Stadium. So when I'm back live with you guys on Monday, I'll give you a full report from seeing AC/DC from my vantage point, and of course, Pretty Reckless, who I totally plan to see, and I hope you do too if you go to the shows. They go on early. They go on at 7. AC/DC starts around 8:30, I'm told. So get in there early and go see Taylor and the Pretty Reckless if you are able to do so. Who has 500,000 subs on YouTube? Wings of Pegasus?
Yeah, so he's reaching a lot of people.
Yeah, well, he's doing great. I mean, he's doing needed work. And he has a very like measured way of doing it. He's like, I'm just by showing you what's going on, mates. You know, it's just, but he breaks it down like in technical details too. It's really, 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 it's indisputable. You know, he just lays it out. All right, so again, get caught up with anything you may have missed from the past week on the app. I'll give you the report from AC/DC after I see him on Saturday, on Monday. And we're going to have a free-for-all time, at least an hour for you today for your call. So if you're trying to get through, sit tight on the phones. We're going to talk to Jared James Nichols for a few minutes, and then we will get to you guys and give you at least an hour on some open phones to close out the live portion of the week. Phone number, as usual, is 844-686-5863, 844-686-5863. I see Jared is standing by, so let's do a quick break and not leave him waiting. And we'll talk to him for a few, and then we'll talk to you on this Thursday.
The Trunk Nation, pure, clean, and uncut conversation on all things rock.
There was a line of Motley Crue, there was a line of Van Halen, and then there was a line of Kiss.
It's like going into the 80s.
Trunk Nation, hosted by Eddie Trunk.
The reason that I listen to Sirius XM.
All right, we are back, and we've got our final guest of the week, last but certainly not least, and he is a guy that, man, I first saw when he first came on the scene, and he has been kicking ass ever since. He is a phenomenal guitarist, singer, blues rock based. I love what he does, and he's got a new album out as well that is called Louder Than Fate that is available now. We were just catching up off the air a little bit. Jared James Nichols joins us. What's going on, JJN?
Eddie, you legend. I love you. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be on the show, man.
It's always good to talk to you. Thank you, man. It's funny, off air, we were talking about staying in shape and trying to keep in shape in our older age. I'm much older than you, of course. But it's funny, man, because I tell the audience this all the time, and I don't think they realize this. When I go and hang with these artists, wherever I go, whoever I get to see, whenever I come out of a backstage or whatever, people are always like, man, what were you talking about? You guys partying back there, whatever. And we're all talking about the same thing. Like, what are you doing to stay in shape? How's your prostate number? How's your cholesterol? And that's what it's come down to at this point, especially for us older dudes.
Well, Eddie, I got to say, every time I see you, you look more and more fit. And I said to you, what is it? What is this fountain of youth you found? And yeah, we were chatting about it. I love it, man.
Yeah, I tell the audience too that I started doing Pilates a couple years ago. And it's like crazy that I stumbled into it. But you're always in shape, man. What's your regimen? You're a big weight guy, clearly.
Yeah. Well, Eddie, one of my first big tours was with Zakk Wylde. So I kind of caught the boot camp right away. But yeah, I just love it. It's kind of a great yin to the yang. Like you were saying, man, it's like when I'm on tour and when I'm traveling, yeah, it can get really burned out. Even I'm a younger guy, but it'll burn you out quick. So having that kind of exercise background to just kind of stay fit, not only physically, but mentally on the road, that's where it started. And now it's like something I got to do every day. It's so good for my head, and it just makes me feel good. And as you know, Eddie, when you feel good, everything's great.
Yeah. Do you worry because Zakk? I mean, Zakk is crazy shape, and he's super thin, and he's always got the guns, and I could only imagine Father Nichols. Let's get in the gym. I could just Zakk being Zakk, right? But do you worry? Do you worry that as a guitar player, that it could potentially impact your dexterity at all?
Yeah, I was actually talking to another guitar player, George Lynch, about that because George used to be all
That's
into the
why
weights
I
big
brought
time.
that up. Exactly, Jared,
Yes.
because he told me he had that problem.
George is funny, man. You should see our text thread. He's like a comedian, man. But yeah, he told me straight up, he's like, hey, you better be careful. He's like, it's going to start changing the way that you play. And to be honest, Eddie, the one thing, it's definitely changed like my posture a bit. It's changed a few things, but I haven't gone so far in yet where it's changed anything too much. And honestly, I'm good with where I'm at. I just want to stay fit. I like the way I feel now. So I think I'm good. And with George, he's like, man, you better be careful. He's like, you trying to get bigger than I was. And I was like, no, I'm good, George.
Well, the thing is, and George admits this, so I'm not saying anything out of school here because we've talked about it on the air. He admits it. At that time when he was super bulked up, he was on some juice. And I'm sure that didn't help.
For sure. And George is a legend. And it's so funny because every time we talk, it's either about Hendrix, it's about weightlifting. It's kind of like Zach too. There's like this common thread. We only talk about like Hendrix, weightlifting, and that's about it, or Led Zeppelin. So it's pretty hilarious.
Exactly. When George was doing that, for people that don't know what we're talking about, George Lynch has always been in great shape, but there was a period where he went really over the top and was super bulked up. And it was the time where it would have been probably around the mid 90s, because I remember he came into my studio and he had done, it was when all the 80s stuff was getting killed, and he tried to make a record that was more of the time, and it was like a rap metal lynch mob record. And now he jokes about that period. I don't know if you know that. He jokes about that period. He calls it Lynch Biscuit because he tried to sound like Limp Bizkit, and it was Lynch Mob.
Lynch Biscuit. That's great, dude. That's hilarious.
Yeah. And he was super cut and super bulked up. And then he admitted he was doing some juice at the time. And he's like, yeah, man, and when I saw him, he looked in shape, but more natural. And he said, yeah, I had to cut all that stuff out because it was impacting his playing. Clearly it hasn't impacted you, and you're not, you're not doing that, but still.
No.
Yeah, but it's a good release for you on the road, right? Because everybody says, you got 22 hours you got to kill when you're not on stage when you're touring, right?
Well, yeah, and also there's that thing where it's like sitting on the road, and it's like, especially for us, I'll go out for 6 weeks at a time, whether it's in the States or in Europe, and between the food that you're eating, the backstage rider, or what you're getting basically at truck stops, it's like, it just starts to take a toll. And man, it's just one of those things where I'm glad I found it when I did, because I started to notice some of the guys in the crew and some of my other bandmates. And I would look at the end of a tour and I'd be like, man, you guys bulked up, man. You gained some weight, but not good weight. You know what I'm saying? And so it's good, man. I'm really happy I found it.
Good. Well, I'm glad you're good. You're doing well. And the new album is killer. It's called Louder Than Fate. It's out now. And it's interesting, Jared, because I discovered you and first saw you and heard of you through the guy that produced this new record, our friend Jay Rustin. And I just had lunch with Jay in LA like 2 weeks ago. I was just sitting with him and we were talking about you and the fact that he produced this record. And he was the guy, we were trying to figure out where and when it was, but he took me to see you in LA in like Burbank or something, and somewhere in the Valley, really early on. You were playing this little club somewhere, and he called me up. He goes, come see this kid. We want to go. I want to go check him out. I'd like to produce him. And now he's produced. I remember Brad Whitford's kid, one of Brad Whitford's kids was working at the club or was there that night.
Man,
remember where that was?
I thought it was at the Viper Room, but I think I'm mistaken.
No, definitely not the Viper. Mm-mm.
Okay. Man, if it was somewhere in the Valley, man, I got to think about it. But I remember the night because I remember Jay Rustin, and I knew exactly who that was. He showed up, and then you showed up. And I was like, oh my goodness, Eddie Trunk is here. And then it went from being like, all right, I got to play my best to like, oh no, Eddie Trunk's here. I got a little nervous. But I remember you were so cool to me that night. And it was like the one thing I got to say about you and Jay, and it's kind of full circle now, but the fact that you guys were so supportive and you were there to watch me. And at that time, man, I didn't have anything going on at all. And the fact that you guys hung out, watched the show, and we got to chat, it was a big deal for me, obviously.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. And I loved what I saw. I mean, I had never heard of you, and I was just hanging out, and Jay and I were getting a drink, and he said, I want to check this kid out. He goes, you should come with me. I said, sure. He goes, I'd like to produce this guy at some point. And now he's produced your new album, Louder Than Fate. So tell me about the experience, working with Jay, recording it in LA, and what you were going for with this album versus the past records.
Yeah, Eddie, it's as you know, with artists at any age or any rate, it's all about growth, right? So every record I feel like has been a building block to get to this point. With this record, working with Jay brought such a great rock edge and a little bit more of a punch that I haven't had on my other records. The other thing that we really talked about a lot was, first and foremost, the songs, singing, and using my guitar as more of a vehicle for the songs instead of the guitar as just the single focal front. And with that being said, some of the songs on the record I wrote with Keith Nelson from Buckcherry. There was a lot of other friends, Tyler Bryant, Tuck Smith, who I know you love, I love.
All three of those guys. All three of those guys you just mentioned are all people I love and know. That's phenomenal. I didn't know they worked with you. That's great.
Yeah, and so, but beyond that, Jay got us an all-access pass to Studio 606, Dave Grohl's studio. So with this record, it took on a whole new life when we were able to take these songs, these demo ideas, basically, and we walked into 606 and we were able to record them for real. And I mean, between that energy in that room, using that Sound City board, and just making it like an old school rock record, we were all in the room together. I could feel the drums hitting my chest, and it was just like that energy really propelled the songs. And like I said, we really started song oriented first, and I'm very proud of that. But at the end of the day, this record, it came out and it's just a beast. It's just a beast of a rock record with a lot of different shades on it. There's a lot of heavy stuff. There's even songs, there's stuff I haven't done. There's a song that's super acoustic driven, which it's called Killing Time, and it's a really cool vibe. So I'm really proud of it, Eddie. I'm really proud of this record.
You should be. And I love Killing Time. I'm glad you called that out, and you did a cool video for that as well. That people can see on YouTube. So that's really good. So yes, it's still you, obviously. It still showcases your playing, your voice, which I love as well. And then of course, songs. At the end of the day, it's about songs. And to that point, you've got something like Killing Time, acoustic, bluesy, and then you've got a song like Pretend that 3 minutes just comes, kicks ass and got a great hook, so you really, that was the biggest thing about this record. You really shown all your sides on here, I think.
I think it's really important for me as an artist, obviously, to continue to develop and to grow. And as you know, Eddie, I love all facets of rock. I love all the blues stuff. And I really wanted to get that out there because I think now more than ever, especially with artists that are on the rise and artists that are younger, still making their name, it's really important to show not only just little snippets of who you are, like social media, like where it's just, you get 60 seconds. It's like, let's make a record. Let's show all the sides of what it is. And with that being said, man, I'm very, very happy with showing all of that and showing who I am, not only as a guitar player, as a songwriter and a singer, but as an artist.
Yeah. So tell me about touring for the record so far, because I know you hit me up maybe a month ago and you were in New York and I'm in Vegas now and we're like missing each other. But you've gone out and done some dates, right? You've played some stuff recently, right?
Yeah, we did a bunch of stuff in the States. We did an East Coast run. We did West Coast. I did a Nashville release show, which was really cool. And then I was actually overseas for about 3 weeks with George Thorogood. And I was doing some shows with him. And then on the backside of that, I was playing a bunch of record release shows. It was really cool. I was having special guests at every show. So like Lizzie Hale came and sang with us. We had a bunch of like different special guests come out. Richie Faulkner from Priest. It was really awesome. So we're still on the heels of that. I have some one-offs this month. I'll be heading back to New York in about 2 weeks and going to do some one-off shows for this. And then next month, I head back over to Europe to support the record over there more. We're going to do Germany, Sweden, the UK. So it's basically unfolding, and I love being on the road. So I'm super excited to support this record, and we're already talking about tours in the States for November and beyond, doing a whole US tour and Europe tour in February and March.
Yeah, if you guys are listening to this right now and you're not hip to who Jared James Nichols is, again, search him out, search out the music, check out the new album, Louder Than Fate. And most importantly, keep an eye on your listings, because if he's playing live, you got to go see him play live, because the band always crushes and Jared crushes. And this kind of music is just, it just begs to be seen in a great, I prefer kind of a smaller venue and just down front and the guitar taking your head off. And that's what I love. And every time I've seen you, it's been like that. I remember I saw you here in Vegas down at the Fremont Country Club. You're playing like a radio show. Remember?
Oh,
I was with my daughter. I brought my daughter, who's not into rock at all. And she was there. And that was just when you, you were, and my buddy Stoney Curtis was with me, and you were just telling us about, and I remember showing us that guitar. There was some crazy story about the guitar that went in the tree and you found it. And Jared, we're doing this on Zoom, so you guys will be able to see this. That's it.
So this guitar, it's one of the first Les Pauls ever made. It survived a tornado. Well, it kind of did. The neck broke off. But this is like rock and roll history. A 1952 model. It's one of the first ones ever. A fan found this in his yard after the tornado. This was in Washington, Illinois, which was one of the biggest tornado ever in existence there. And he found this and he gave me what was left of it. I had a luthier in Pennsylvania who's passed away. His name is Joel Wilkins. Build a neck for it, right?
Yeah.
And this guitar, literally, you can see that on the back. I know that people are listening, but
we'll put it on YouTube so they can see. Yeah.
And
amazing.
It was right when I got this guitar that I met you and your daughter and Stoney at that show. And Eddie, it's like, how do I say this? This guitar, and I'm such a guitar fanatic, but it sounds like our favorite records. When you plug it in and you turn it up, it just has the thing. And it just sounds right. And I love it.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember we have photos of us holding it. You told us to hold it, and I remember telling my daughter the story. It was really, I remember that. That was probably a year or two ago here in Vegas. It was amazing.
Yeah, I remember your daughter was kind of like, she was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Trust me, just take a picture. You'll be happy you did later."
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So, and I wanted to ask you too, because you mentioned you're going over to Europe. And in my experience, in talking to artists who are blues-based, blues rock-based, they traditionally, regardless of where they're from in the world, they seem to do really well in Europe. It seems like European audiences embrace American blues-leaning acts even more so than here. Have you found that?
Big time, Eddie. There's something about this kind of musical art form in Europe that still holds a lot of value. I found out about this the first time I went to Europe. I remember we were playing very small club shows. And we got there and I said to the promoter at the first show, I said, "So how do you think it's going to be tonight?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, we sold it out." And I look at him, I'm like, "No one knows who I am. You sold it out." And he goes, "Well, you're blues rock. You're from America. People are very interested in that." And they look at the flyers, they see this, and there's still a community of people that are very much into it. So I went to the show. I had some CDs for sale. We sold out of CDs. And I was like, this is weird because this doesn't really exist in the States. Don't get me wrong. There's great pockets for this music all around, whether it's the East Coast, West Coast, down South, Midwest, of course. But there's something different there, and it's country by country. So, for instance, when I went over there, I got to do a tour, and I was opening for Leonard Skinner, supporting Skinner. And we were playing to 16 to 20,000 people a night. And that instantly, I would go back with my trio, and that kind of started to calculate where we would play those same cities, and they were showing up. They're like, "We saw you with Skinner." And then it just kept it kept rolling over almost. And for someone like me playing in Europe, it's very, very different because, like I said, they just value this music a lot more. And honestly, Eddie, it feels like it's really alive there.
Yeah, and you can tell. I mean, somebody like Joe Bonamassa does unbelievable business over there and built from nothing into that. I'm not that he doesn't do great here too. He does, but I know over there he's doing Royal Albert Hall multiple nights and all this stuff. It's incredible. Rival Sons, a band that I love, they do extremely well over there. They're an American band. They do okay here, but they do really well there. So it's really interesting how that works and how they embrace some things maybe even before the American audiences fully get it.
Big time. And the other thing I always think about too is a lot of times in Europe, regardless of what level you're at, there's a lot of support. There's a lot of support from promoters, there's support from clubs, and obviously fan support. I feel like a lot of times in the States, when I'm on a support slot tour, let's say I'm supporting anyone from Zakk Wylde to UFO or Saxon or whoever it is, there's always a great feeling in the room and people are into the music when it's right in front of them. But you see a lot of times that if you're not at the top of your game in the States, sometimes it's hard to retain that. And when we go to Europe, it's just a different kind of field. It just feels different and people are just really locked in with the whole community there.
You're from Wisconsin and you lived in LA for a while, but now you were telling me you live just outside of Nashville. And I know that's a very vibrant scene for rock and has really grown with rock artists in the last 10, 15 years, especially. How do you find it being there? Do you get a chance to collaborate with a lot of people and connect with a lot of people? Is there a real scene for rock there now?
There is, Eddie. It's like it's growing every day. A lot of people. So I got to Nashville about 6 years ago. And even when I was here, there was already a big rock scene kind of bubbling. I remember one of the first people that I started to work with here was Marty Fredrickson. And through him, I started to see all these different bands that would come through. And then I got hooked up with Joe and Lizzie from Hailstorm, and they introduced me to a ton of different people in the rock world here. And, Dave Cobb was here producing records. So it's a big deal here. There's a lot. Every night you can go out and see rock and roll here. There's a really great community. And I feel like a lot of people would think, oh, Nashville still is all country. There's a ton of rock. There's a ton of cool clubs and bars that every night you can see live original rock acts trying to make their way.
Yeah, the first guy in the rock world that I knew that really put down roots there and really started there was Tom Kiefer. Tom was like the first guy that I know that kind of, I'm sure there were others before him, but Tom was the first guy that I knew was like, wait a minute, rock guy living in Nashville. And then now you've got everybody from, Vince Neil and Mick Mars and, Dave Mustaine. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And it's odd. I don't get there all that often, but I really should because half the people I talk to live there now.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's like when I first started coming around here, it was because of Gibson guitars. The Gibson guitars are made here, and I had a lot of friends that worked there. And then, of course, there was, the clubs that we would play in town. But then it just started to become, like you said, all these people were moving here. I mean, now it's kind of like, I feel like Nashville has really replaced all the other cities for anywhere to find a scene. It feels like here more than anywhere else, even on the recording side, there's just so many studios and you never know who's hanging out. Like, for instance, a few weeks ago, I was with Dweezil Zappa, of all people. And he's been L for his whole life. He's moving everything to Nashville. So there's still a lot of people that are making that kind of wave to get back here to Nashville to kind of reside. So I don't know. There is something special about it, though. It feels like a guitar town. And when you're here, it does feel like there's music everywhere.
Yeah. And the other thing, you mentioned Gibson Guitars, which is based there. You are actually like Gibson Guitars really embraced you very early, right? And you were like a spokesperson, brand ambassador for them. You've got a big history with them, right? And a connection to them. Talk about that, if you will.
Yeah, big time. So the first connection to that is I was actually born in Waukesha, Wisconsin, where Les Paul, the guy, was from. And my grandfather was actually friends as a child with Les Paul. My grandpa was a polka drummer. It's crazy. Wow. But long story short, when I moved to Los Angeles, I started getting really deep into trying to find a band. What was I going to do? One of the first things I did, Eddie, is I signed up for a guitar contest put on by Gibson. It was a Les Paul tribute contest. And the judges were guys from Guitar Player Magazine, Gibson Guitar, D'Addario Strings, all these different people. And I won the contest and I won a brand new Les Paul, a year's supply of guitar strings, featuring Guitar Player Magazine. It was the best thing ever because I had nothing going on. And through that, I started to meet people at Gibson. And I remember the first event, they said, hey, we're doing an event for Robbie Krieger of The Doors. Do you want to come and play guitar? And I was like, are you kidding? Of course. So they would ask me to play these events on like Sunset. You know, it would be like, oh, we're at the Viper Room or we're at the Troubadour. Can you come and play outside by the Gibson bus? So it just, this relationship started to happen. And as I grew my own musicianship and I started my trio, I started to borrow guitars from Gibson. And then it became a thing where they were saying, oh, you know, Jared, you can take that Les Paul, you can use that Flying V. And it got to the point where in 2018, I had really starting to branch out and people were starting to notice me, you know, playing these guitars, and they offered me my first signature model guitar. So since then, I've had 3 signature Les Pauls. They're literally behind me on the wall, if you can see them.
Yeah, I do.
Those are, yeah. I didn't do this on purpose, I swear. So I've been able to have these 3 signatures. And just a few years ago, Gibson asked me if I would become one of their brand ambassadors alongside Slash, Lizzie Hale, Dave Mustaine, and Jerry Cantrell. And essentially, it's just a really, really cool opportunity to kind of just totally put forces together with the biggest company I love. And it's been great, man. I've done so many great things with Gibson. We actually just released, if anyone's interested in watching it, it's called The Long Road. Gibson actually followed me around, Eddie, for about 4 years with a camera on tour in the studio. And they released a documentary just a few weeks ago that just came out. And it's a really cool insight into who I am as an artist, but also who I am as a person. And that just came out, and I'm super proud of that. And recently, the other big news is that I just signed an artist deal with Marshall Amps. So between Gibson guitars and now I'm working with the juggernaut that is Marshall, it's like, I don't know how much more rock history, rock awesomeness I could have, you know, the wind in my sails.
No, that's amazing. Congratulations on that. And I'm glad you brought up the doc because I did not know about it until a little while ago. And I was watching it like literally an hour ago. But I had to come on the air with you to talk to you, so I didn't finish it yet, but I did get about halfway through it.
Wow.
And I thought it was phenomenal, and it's super well done. And even though I know you and have known you for a long time, there were things I did not know that's in that documentary. And again, you guys can pull it up whenever you want on YouTube. It's called The Long Road, Jared James Nichols, The Long Road. And it's really well done. And the one thing I didn't know, and I wanted to offer my condolences, I did know your dad passed away. And you tell that story in the documentary and how he impacted you, obviously, you know, not only bringing you up, but as far as a guitar player as well.
Big time, Eddie. It was, you know, I think a lot of people can have that sentiment. Maybe a lot don't also, but I had the support of my parents. And I remember my dad was as blue collar as they get. He was I wake up at 3:30 a.m. guy, off to work, working all day until dark. And I remember he was so instrumental in saying, play your guitar, try, you know, really do that. And it was his kind of upbringing and him, you know, being so supportive that really made me push for it. And it in the doc, it shows a revealing light of, you know, not only our relationship and how strong it was, but also how much he guided me. And also, you know, it's kind of dealing with when you lose a loved one like that and kind of the hole it leaves. And especially for someone like me, that having that support system, it's like trying to figure out where you put that emptiness and how you fill that hole. And that's kind of what it goes into on that doc. And I just thank God that I have music and I have these guitars, and not to sound cheesy, but it's really the music and what we love that keeps it going for me. And that's the therapy, and that's the love of it, you know. And the doc does reveal a lot of that. And I always just say I'm so happy that I did have 30 years with a supportive father, you know. So it's great.
Yeah. It's super important, man. And I thought that was really cool. And I think you said in the doc that your dad didn't even play, but one day he just brought a guitar home and just encouraged you to do it, enjoyed hearing you do it, which I thought was real. He wasn't a musician, right?
He was not a musician, but Eddie, you guys would have got along great because, you know, he'd put on the radio and he knew everything. But he was a little bit older, so it was all Cream, it was Zeppelin, it was Mountain, it was the James Gang. You know, I mean, we're talking the old school Robin Trower. And I remember being a kid, man. He didn't play anything, but he would act like he was playing the guitar and he'd know the fills, you know, with Sabbath and know all the lyrics. And that's all it took for me to be inspired. Sometimes, and I think a lot of people can agree with this, inspiration doesn't have to come from oh, he taught me that chord or he taught me that. It's more about the spirit. And I think with this music that we love, that's what it's all about, man. And that's what keeps all this stuff alive. And especially for someone like me to continue to breathe my fresh air into it. It's all about the spirit, and it's all about keeping that flame burning, man. And that's what that to me is what all of this is about.
Yeah, and it's so cool that he was supportive. I was lucky in that way too. I'm extremely lucky. I still have both my parents, and I'm about to be 62 next week, and I still have both of them.
That's amazing.
They're both doing okay. Yeah, I'm super fortunate in that regard. It never escapes me. And I'll tell you, when I was coming up, not as a musician, but I was coming up with this crazy passion for rock music, and people say to me all the time, like I'll tell them stories like, "Oh yeah, I was at a Kiss show in 1979 at Madison Square Garden." I'm like, they were like, how the hell did your parents at like 14 let you go from New Jersey into Madison Square Garden? And I'm like, they were cool with it. Like, because they knew I wasn't going to party or to drink or score drugs. They just knew I was like a music junkie, and they were cool with it. I've heard other people are like, oh man, I brought a Kiss record home or an Aerosmith record home, and my parents threw it out and said, you can't listen to that. It's this or that. So my parents were always like super cool with it. And that's, again, for what who knows if I would ended up doing what I've done if I didn't have that, if I was beaten down or not encouraged to kind of chase that. So it's important. It really is.
Absolutely. And I think that that's the best part about it. That reminds me of when I was a kid, my dad dropped me and my friends off at a Kiss concert. And he was like, go have fun. He's like, I'll see you guys when it's over. And there he was waiting outside for us. And it was just like, that's the kind of things, man, that, it's like that kind of support where your parents, they trust you and they know that you're there for the right intention. And to me, that just meant everything. And even to this day, I know that my dad's gone now, but I still think of him like he's over my shoulder. So when I'm playing, when I'm listening to music, that's kind of the cool part too. It's like you carry them. They're always there. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I remember my dad took me to see Judas Priest at a convention hall in Asbury Park, New Jersey, 1981. There was this band called Iron Maiden opening up. And my dad, I couldn't drive. And my dad waited for me outside of the building. And I remember, Halford comes out on the Harley at the end of a pre-show. And my dad heard the Harley. And when I walked out, I'll never forget, he said to me, he goes, I thought you were at a rock show. And I go, I was. He goes, I was hearing a motorcycle in there. I thought it was a car show or something. I go, no,
that's
the guy came out on a
amazing.
Motorcycle. So it's all that sort of stuff. Those are just great, great memories, man.
That's awesome.
Well, Jared,
man.
Listen, man, I'm so happy for your success and how your career is building. It's awesome. You got all this stuff going on. You've always been a great dude and a great talent. And, I'm always rooting for you. And everybody check out Jared's new album. It's called Louder Than Fate. It's out now. Any U.S. dates yet, or you're still adding some stuff?
Yeah, we're adding stuff. In the next week, there will be a full list, but we're doing East Coast. We're going to have some West Coast stuff all happening October, November.
All right, cool. Well, we'll definitely spread the word on that when that comes out. And I hope to see you in person somewhere soon and get to see you play again somewhere soon. Hopefully we'll connect somewhere in the country.
Eddie, you're a legend, man. Thanks for everything. And yeah, of course, I can't wait to see you soon, brother.
All right, man. All the best to you, man. Keep rocking and good luck with the new record. It sounds great.
Thanks, brother. See ya.
All right, we'll see you. There's Jared James Nichols, everybody. Check him out and check out that doc. It's really good. I got about 3/4 through the way and I had to come on the air. I didn't know. It popped up on my YouTube and, because I'm sure the computer was listening to me saying I got Jared on today. And next thing you know, it came up in my feed. So check it out if you want to learn more about Jared and his story, because it is free and clear on YouTube. It's called The Long Road, and it's really, really good. It's well done. Gibson, who we just heard, Gibson Guitars, who Jared is aligned with, and as a younger artist, Gibson took a shot on him and made him a brand ambassador, as you just heard. But Gibson has done some really cool video-based content with some artists online. They were the ones behind this Tony Iommi series on YouTube that's come out. There's been some other stuff, interview shows. There was the one, Mark, I forget his last name. He works for Gibson. I know him. He did a thing with Paul Stanley where they went into Paul Stanley's storage lockup and pulled his guitars out of the guitar cases, and Paul told stories about all the guitars, whether it's the Ibanez or whatever, the classic guitars he played. Thought that was really, really fascinating. And there's tons of cool stuff that Gibson is doing, with their studio online. So Jared's doc is part of that and definitely worth checking out. I think it's just Gibson TV. If you search that on YouTube, you'll see the different things that they've done. Speaking of cool Kiss stuff online too, there's also, I joke about this all the time. Gene and Paul, I don't know if there's a podcast they haven't done because they're constantly doing all these podcasts. And Gene did one recently where I'm sure he probably regrets having done it because he even says at one point, why am I doing this? I don't know, maybe don't do every single podcast ever existed, and maybe you won't. I'm just kind of joking because he's constantly popping up on these things. But Gene did this one where the guy, I don't even know what it was. I guess it's the guy's thing. Guy came out in like a clown suit, and they just do all this awkward stuff. And Gene is sitting there in a folding chair, like looking around, like, what am I doing here? It was really bizarre. The guy had like this weird voice, and it was like a whole thing. It was like a whole... Joel, did you see that? Do you know what that is? You know what I'm talking about?
No, I didn't.
I don't know if that's a big podcast with younger people. I was told that that's what the guy does. Because look, here's the deal. Literally, seemingly everybody on the planet has a podcast. But very few of them actually have any real audience. So it's a lot of people getting their kicks, whatever. But what's happened is because there's so many with a new one coming out every minute from someone, whether they're known people or unknown people, everyone's looking for their leg up to try to get attention and build an audience. I mean, thank God, whatever audience I have, I've built over 43 years of doing this. But if you're jumping into the media pool now with no history, I mean, good luck trying to get traction. So some of these people are doing real off-the-wall things to try to get attention and clicks to what they're doing. So what my understanding about this, I don't even know the name of it, but these guys do these wacky, weird things, awkward interviews, and I'm sure it's probably gotten them some followers, which is probably why Gene did it. But on the flip side of that, something that I saw was really good with Gene and Paul was something, I think it was called Trackstar Podcast. And they did it together, and they did it around their induction into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in New York. And the host goes through playing clips of old 50s and 60s songs that inspired them as songwriters. So it's not about the usual Kiss interviews like, well, tell me about the decision to put on the makeup, and why did you do makeup, and tell me about Breathing Fire, and all that stuff you've heard a billion times. If I have to hear those guys say again, we wanted to create the band that we weren't seeing on stage, and I'm not saying that's their fault. I'm just saying that they're constantly asked those kind of questions and give those kind of answers. This was not that. This was them going through old 50s and 60s songs and talking about how it inspired them. And the guy was able to clear the songs because on podcasts, you cannot play music because you will get flagged on it unless you pay for the rights to do it. So anyway, that's one I saw that kind of... Two that I saw that jumped out for very different reasons. One, because it was very music-centric and about their history and the stuff they loved growing up. But then the other one, which I didn't even watch in its entirety, I just saw a couple clips, was completely off the wall. To the point that Gene literally says during it, the one thing is, I don't know what I'm doing here. So I'm sure that publicist may have gotten a talking to. Gene said something like, I don't know. They just tell me to go and I go. That's not very Gene-like, who likes to control everything, and be in charge. Really interesting. I almost felt bad for him. He's just sitting there in a folding chair and he's like looking like he doesn't know what's going on. It's in this weird room and these like people walking in and out in costumes. What's the name of the show? The Bad Game Show?
I think that's
Cody is writing this?
Yeah.
Satirical.
Yeah. So I guess there's this podcast called Bad Friends or whatever, and there's a series that they do called The Bad Game Show, and the quick description of it is comedic trivia, bizarre banter, unique interactions, and it's between Gene Simmons and musician Oliver Tree.
I don't know. Again, these guys do so many of these things more so than anybody I've ever seen that I can't even keep track with the ones they are not doing and who these people are. But whatever. I guess, now that they're not really actively doing Kiss anymore, they got a lot of downtime. It's some of it's like the ones I mentioned, interesting, good. Some of it's like, okay. Anyway, okay. So thanks to Jared James Nichols and his doc. It's about an hour long, definitely worth checking out. And the album, again, is out now called Louder Than Fate. And if you love straight up bluesy hard rock, I mean, Jared's been compared to Nugent. He's been compared to John Sykes. I think a lot in how he looks and the type of player he is. But, he's a younger guy. And he is a, guy that I saw come up very, very early on, and he's still out there, and I love what he does because it's super real and super live and organic and old school and really good to see live if you get a chance to do so because it actually is live. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, the rest of the show is yours. 844-686-5863. We go to free-for-all mode. Nothing but your calls to close it out till just...
Sirius XM's Faction Talk, Trunk Nation.
The attraction, foreplay, the sex, and then the cigarette after.
Oh, God.
You're welcome.
With the voice of rock and roll, Eddie Trunk.
All right, we are back hanging with you on a Thursday edition of Trunk Nation, Faction Talk 103. Remember, listen live or on demand. If you miss anything from the week, any shows, any interviews, just go to the Sirius XM app and dial up Trunk Nation, dial up my name, and you will be able to get caught up on any shows or interviews, etc. There is also a YouTube channel, simply at my name, with video of some of the interviews. You notice we've been doing that more lately. I'm trying to bring you some video content, and Jared was showing that super old guitar, which when we put that up on YouTube, you'll actually be able to see. John 5 is texting me as we speak. Okay, we'll see what happens. John has been texting me in the last 5 minutes. I've not talked to John 5. Of course, Motley Crue is out there touring right now. John is... they're playing in New Jersey tomorrow. So I was getting Pat Badger from Extreme hit me up. People are wondering if I'm in New Jersey, if I'm going to come to that show tomorrow. But no, I'm not because I'm on the other side of the country and I'm going to AC/DC on Saturday. But hopefully I'll be able to catch that tour when it comes west later in the summer. So I don't know. John might call any second here. Okay, now he's saying next week. It's his birthday tomorrow. I didn't know that. Okay. So John 5 is not going to infringe on our free-for-all time. It looks like he's a bit busy at the moment, but does want to call in. He says maybe next week. Next week, we're looking at Mastodon, possibly. Member or two of Mastodon. We're also looking at Billy Morrison. And we are also now looking at John 5, potentially. And there's a couple other things I got cooking next week, so we'll see what slots in. As usual, we try to start the weeks now on Mondays with Free for All, which has been going well. People coming off the weekend wanting to talk about shows they saw. I will be talking to you on Monday about seeing AC/DC on Saturday here in Vegas. So we'll try to keep it open on Monday, and then we'll get a lot of guests like we did this week, probably midweek, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And, of course, with the new schedule, on Fridays you get a week in review and back live with you on Monday for both shows here and, of course, on Hair Nation. All right, let's get over to the phones. 844-686-5863. Sean in Oklahoma is our first caller today. Hi, Sean.
Hey, can you hear me?
I got you, Sean. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, so I'm on my way to the airport right now to go see AC/DC, the Pretty Reckless.
Where are you flying? Here to
Tomorrow
Vegas?
Night. Oh, yeah, I'm flying to Vegas.
Okay, well, maybe there'll be 70,000 people there, Sean, but maybe I'll run into you because I'll be there.
I'm in Section A1. I'm also seeing Lynch Mob tomorrow night at the Nugget.
Yeah, I know that Lynch is playing tomorrow, but I don't think I'm going to make it down there downtown. But it should be, you should definitely check it out. Andrew Freeman is not singing on that show. He told me he had a conflict, but he's still singing with Lynch, but he's not singing with them. But yeah, I'm not going to be able to make it to that. I've got a dinner plan, and then actually Todd Kearns is playing here in Vegas tomorrow night as well. I might go over to that. So there's always a lot going on here.
Yeah. I wanted to go to the Sphere, but I really couldn't find nothing that was going on there.
Say again?
So I said I was going to go to the Sphere, but I couldn't find anything happening there.
Oh, right. Yeah, well, you should. Thank you, Sean. Travel safe, maybe, and Sean, be ready, because if you are coming into Vegas this weekend for AC/DC or for anything, no. And again, I do not get overly obsessed with weather. When I talk to my parents, the first thing out of their mouth is they give me a weather report in New Jersey and ask me about the weather in Nevada. When you get older, people are consumed with weather, but it's a thing. And I will warn you, now he's coming from Oklahoma, so he's probably more than okay. But it is, they are predicting record heat in Vegas this weekend. The worst of it will be Saturday, the day of AC/DC, where they are predicting about 120 degrees. Now, again, Allegiant Stadium is inside. There is a roof on it. So you don't have to worry at the actual concert, but going to and from the concert, walking outside, a lot of people pre-gaming, drinking outside. Hydrate, because it's going to be a hot one. But there is no humidity. I have a friend coming in from Oklahoma to go to the show this weekend, and he was telling me it's brutal there because it's 100 and humid, which is way worse. But it is going to be, even by Vegas standards, unusually hot this weekend, so be careful. But yeah, Lynch is playing tomorrow night, Golden Nugget. Todd Kearns playing tomorrow night at the Bootlegger at the Copa Room, which is behind the Bootlegger restaurant. Todd and a lot of guests will be jamming. Todd just coming off the dates with Triumph and all of that. And then you got AC/DC on Saturday, so it's another big rock weekend here in town. I'll let you know what I get to and what I see besides AC/DC, if anything. Again, back live on Monday. Ed in Albany. Go ahead, Ed.
Eddie, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. Thank you.
I got two things I wanted to talk to you about today. First is I saw Extreme Tesla and the crew last night up in Saratoga. Really good crowd, probably 14,000. I kind of felt bad for Extreme because they come on so early, so they didn't fill up till about halfway through. Extreme and Tesla, always 100% live, always great. And you've seen it and talked about it and seen the rumors about Vince on the internet, and 100% true, Eddie. We were seventh row, and he sang a whole verse during Wildside. No noise came out. He was early. Then they played the verse through the speakers, and he sang the verse again. It was brutal. Up close, you could tell he was missing words and stuff. they're trying, but it's just it's not live.
Well, look, that's all over out there on the internet. It's, I mean, in full disclosure, obviously, John is a good friend, and he's not going to, I mean, again, I can't, he's not going to say that publicly if that's the case. So people expect him to come on and address that or us to get into that. It's just not going to happen because he's got a job to do. He could never do that. He's just not in that position. But fans can say it, and if that's the case, you know what, Ed, if that is, and I've not seen the show, but if that is true and that's what's going on, and I don't doubt what you're saying and seeing and hearing, fans should talk about it. It should. I don't care. These bands, no matter how much I may or may not know them, to me, there's no excuse for it. I'll never endorse it. I'll never sign off on it. I'll never say I'm okay with it. It's just crazy.
Same thing. So the second thing, Eddie, really quick, I just want your opinion on something. So you always do the top 5 list, and I called in last week, and my number 1 was Paranoid, and Florentine kind of gave me some shit. I was wondering, and some guy picked like the B-side from the 13 album as one of his top 5 songs. Do you think sometimes people pick obscure songs just to look cool and or look musically knowledgeable in front of you on the phone rather than pick their favorite songs? And I'll leave you with that.
Well, I don't think, thank you, Ed, for the call. I don't think they do that to look extra knowledgeable in front of me necessarily. I think people do that in general all the time, but I don't know how much of it is manufactured, versus it's just how they really feel. It is odd to say your number 1 all-time Sabbath song is a B-side from their last record or whatever that was. But if he genuinely feels that caller, then that's his prerogative. Look, people might think that of me sometimes because I'll sit here and tell you my favorite Skid Row album is Subhuman Race, and it is. And that's not just me trying to sound different or deep or cool or knowledgeable. Just the truth. It's just how I feel. Doesn't mean I don't like the others. If you heard the interview with Rachel Bolan, I went deep on all the records, including the ones without Sebastian, because I really know that band and like that band and their entire catalog pretty much. But it is true that my favorite album is the one that most people don't even know, and that's how I genuinely feel. Do some people do that just for effect, to kind of look, hip? Maybe. But you can't doubt if they really feel that way, and that's what really connected with them. For me, it's really, and I've talked about this before, I am not a guy, like, I can't deal with the songs that are overplayed. When we do top 5s, top 10s, top 20s, I've always said this, if you've listened for a long time, you can't penalize a song for popularity. So if Welcome to the Jungle or Sweet Child of Mine is truly your all-time favorite Guns N' Roses song, and we did a top 5 or a top 10, and you put that at number 1, you should, if that's how you feel. But I think also what happens on the flip side to what Ed is saying is that sometimes people try to be too cool for the room and pick something super obscure just to look different. So you can kind of have it both ways, right? Like, it's hard though, because for me, I've heard Crazy Train so many times. I've heard Welcome to the Jungle so many times. I've had to play those songs so many times when I do music radio over the decades that it just does create this effect like I just can't hear it anymore. And you wonder if you've not had to hear it a billion times, or in my case, you've not had to play it for people a billion times, would it sit differently with you? Would you look at it more objectively as like, well, that's the best song they ever made? I don't know. Because often I don't think the most played songs from an artist are necessarily their best songs. Most of the times, I do not feel the artist's top 2 or 3 biggest hits are their best songs by a long stretch, if you truly know their catalog. But for most people, those are the only songs from that artist they know because it's the ones they hear on the radio every day 5 times. But for me, they're the biggest tune-outs in the world. He's talking about the other end of that, of people just trying to look too cool and come up with obscure stuff for the sake of it being obscure. I don't know. I think, sure, some people do that, but I also think some people genuinely feel that. I know if I do that, it's because it's coming from a genuine place of really feeling that's my favorite song. We got to do another top 5 at some point, top 10s. We'll get into more of that. Just been having a lot of guests lately. One other thing, since the caller's name was Ed, it just reminded me of something. My late producer, Ed Robinson, I noticed the other day on his Twitter/X account, somebody was posting on it. I assume maybe it was his wife. I reposted it. They have started a fund in Ed's name. Ed passed away from a glioblastoma, basically a brain tumor. Latest post, want to help us get revenge on glioblastoma. We've started a nonprofit in Ed Robinson's memory. So I'm going to repost this right now. Boom, I just did. The account for Ed is Evil Ed Robinson. But if you'd like to find that more easily, seconds ago, if you go to my Twitter/X, which is simply at Eddie Trunk, you'll see it now at the top of the feed. That is Ed's family doing that in Ed's memory. So if you'd like to help out or get involved, that is there for you to check out. And one of the reasons why I think they activated this is, if you remember my former producer, Ed, he was the biggest Rush fan that I knew. I mean, I love Rush, but Ed was crazy about it. We would always joke with him on the air about it. And with Rush being active again, Ed being from New York, Rush playing right now at Madison Square Garden, a lot of people thinking of Ed and how much he would have loved to have seen this and been there. So that's probably part of the timing of them sort of rolling this out as well. But I wanted to share that with everybody as well. So you can find that on my Twitter/X. Let's go to Minnesota. Here's Raymond. Hi, Raymond.
Oh, nice to talk to Eddie again. I missed your show, that metal show, and I always would like to have done this one, but I got hopefully a good stump to Trump for you today.
All right.
The question is, this guy made 2 singles for 2 sports teams that won championships in his state, and this guy is a classic rock icon and everything, solo and with groups. And this guy also was a past this metal show guest and everything and that. And but one of them came out in 91, one came out in 1998 for this.
You're saying this artist made songs for a sports team? Is that what you're talking? Is that what you said?
Yes, 2 times for 2 different sports teams from his city that won a championship in his city.
And he was a guest on that metal show?
Oh, yeah, like I say, and you'll, like say, when I tell you, be like, yeah. This guy goes back to the 60s.
Was it Tom Morello? Oh, he goes back to the 60s?
This guy started in the 60s. He was in a band, then he went solo, then back with a band, and now solo again. Yeah.
Mark Farner?
Nope. As many guesses you want. Nope. And, this guy, I mean, he's been around for over 50 years.
Well, I don't have a prize for you, Raymond, and our box of junk girl is not going to walk out anytime soon, so why don't you give me the answer?
That's fine. Ted Nugent.
Ted did sports anthems?
He did in 19, and I've got it right here, in 1998 was for Detroit Red Wings when they won a Stanley Cup, and 1991 for Detroit Pistons, Motor City Bad Boys.
Wow, I didn't know that. My biggest memory, thank you, Raymond, for the call. My biggest memory about having Ted when we had him on that metal show was that we were not allowed, the artists were not allowed to play any of their recorded songs when they jammed on guitar. If you remember, we would always have a musician in the stands playing some licks in and out of commercial breaks or into breaks, whatever it was. An idea that was inspired by Yngwie, by the way. But those artists could not and were instructed to and had to sign a waiver that whatever they were playing was not a published piece of music. They couldn't play the riff to one of their big songs because if they did, we would get a bill for the publishing rights to the song. Again, you guys probably do not understand or realize the incredible amount of legalities that are involved on taking a recorded piece of music and putting it on TV or even a podcast. That's what I mentioned before, podcast or certain, movie, certainly, without clearances, without deals in place. So that's why we told these people that any artist that played, you just noodle. You can't do anything that's a published song. And I will never forget when Ted came on, he had his guitar and he wanted to play a little bit of Stranglehold, a little bit of Cat Scratch Fever, and we told him he couldn't. And he was like just completely dumbfounded by that. And he was so mad about it. He's like, who the fuck's going to tell me I can't play my song? These are my songs. And I go, well, Ted, do you still own those songs? And he's like, well, I think somebody else has the publishing. There, exactly, that person. Whoever you sold the song to, or whoever the other writer is, would have to sign off on it. So yeah, these artists all take these payouts for hundreds of millions of dollars. We talk about it all the time. They don't own it anymore. So even if they wanted to sign off on it, they couldn't. That's one of the obstacles right now that I've been dealing with the documentary coming out on me. Is, of course, we want to have some music in it, but even if you can use 20 seconds of a song, say I'm sitting here talking to you about Guns N' Roses, or I'm telling a story about Guns N' Roses in the documentary, for example. Well, yeah, ideally, if you're making a movie, you would say, oh, let's put a little bit of Out to Get Me while he's talking underneath. Well, guess what? If you don't have a sync license for that song, you didn't make a deal for that song, you didn't pay for the rights to that, you don't have a license for it, you're going to get your ass sued, even if it's 5-10 seconds. You got to go, and everyone wants different money depending upon how popular the song is or the band is. So it's a huge, huge deal. It's a lot of money. There's a lot of business involved in that. And Ted wasn't having it. So every time we threw to Ted to play on the show, he would go into the riff to Cat Scratch Fever. My producer would be like, cut. Ted, you can't play that. Well, goddamn it, I'm playing it. It became a whole thing. And then finally, when we just let him do it, but then when we aired the show, we had to cut it out. Then we showed him playing some, but it was when he was noodling and not the song. But he wasn't having it. I remember he walked up in the stands. He kept playing the song. We were just laughing. We're like, all right, you can keep playing it, but you're only playing for this audience because no one's going to hear it. Now, if we were a TV show at that time that had real budgets and we had money behind us and we weren't basically Wayne's World on TV, as Paul Stanley once called us, pretty accurately, by the way, then we could easily, pay the money. I mean, of course, you see a ton of music in TV shows and in movies all the time because they have the budget to do it. We didn't have the budget. And those numbers, by the way, to get those licenses have only gone up over time because of these big publishing deals and people wanting more and more money to try to recoup all the money they've paid for the rights to the song. So you see, it's all a big circle, But yeah, Ted was not having it that day. He was just in disbelief. Who's telling me that I can't play it? I said, well, who's telling you is the person who owns your publishing, because they're not going to let us have it for free. Kathy in Virginia. Go ahead, Kathy.
Hi, Eddie. I was just calling to say thank you for having Jared James Nichols on. I heard him in Virginia last year opening for Michael Schenker, and I bought all the CDs he had there, went up and met him, and just a great guy, and I'm so glad to hear he's doing well.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed the interview, and I'm glad you know him and you've seen him, and he has indeed had the opportunity to open for a lot of major guitar players and played with a lot of different people. There's a lot of older guitar players who have certainly appreciated what Jared does and taken him under their wing a little bit. I think they see that they can't go on forever, and it's good to see younger people like that bringing those old school values like he does.
So I'll be looking to see if he comes anywhere near me later this year. But thanks again and keep up all the great work.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you for listening. 844-686-5863. Finishing up with some phone calls here on Trunk Nation. We go over to Lance, who is in California, joining us next. Hey, Lance.
Hey, Eddie, what's happening?
Hey, Lance.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I hear you.
Okay. Couple of things real quick. Went to the Paso Mid-State Fair last weekend and was walking, and I hear Queensryche playing. They're playing the free show. So I went in there. It was a small amphitheater, maybe 300-400 people in there, and that wasn't a live show at all. You know, I don't know much about Queensryche. I know their music's kind of different. I don't know if they need all those multi-layered tracks to put on a show. Had a chance to walk back behind the soundboard and laptops. So I listened to 3 or 4, songs, and just kind of, if I wanted to hear them, I'd go out to my truck and put a CD in. It's kind of different. I don't know if they always, if when Jeff Tate was in the band, if they ran tracks or not, but kind of disappointed. So I just thought I'd give you that update on that.
Well, I think from what I know about that situation, and I think probably something you're referring to, and I think they've been transparent about this, there are things, there are production elements in their albums that can't be recreated live, especially things like that are on Mindcrime and things that, these big sort of chanting vocals and maybe these little keyboardy parts and things like that. So to your point, it very well could be that, because that's just something that they cannot recreate live. Again, I don't know. And look, my preference, and thank you, Lance, for the call. My preference is always going to be a 100% live show. However, that being said, the other part that always gets lost in my rants about this topic is that I am not bothered, and I understand if you are a touring band and you have 1 song or 2 songs with a keyboard part in it, and you're not going to hire and carry a keyboard player for those 1 or 2 parts. I understand that. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with the keyboard intro or the keyboard, even the keyboard lick being on a recording. When Dio used to do Rainbow in the Dark, there were times that Dio toured and he did not tour with a keyboard player. There were other times he did bring a keyboard player. In recent years, it was Scott Warren. But there were a couple times where Ronnie did not bring a keyboard player. And you had the beginning of Holy Diver, that big, that tone. Or you had the central lick in the song Rainbow in the Dark, which is a keyboard lick. And when Jimmy Bain was in the band, he would play that on a little keyboard. But there were tours that Ronnie did, especially when it was leaner years, where he did not carry a keyboard player, and clearly the keyboard lick in Rainbow in the Dark was a recorded track. I was okay with that. Not because it was Ronnie, but because I understood it. What are you going to do? You're going to hire a keyboard player, and the equipment and the salary and the bunk on the bus and the room at the hotel and the seat on the plane to have the guy play on 2 songs? Of course, most people would not do that. Financially, it doesn't make any sense. I understand that. I'm not talking about that. And again, the caller mentioning Queensryche, I'm not sure what's going on there, but I do believe that for sure what they're doing are some of those effects that you would get throughout those records. There are big gang vocals, and anybody who listens to Queensryche knows there's these big produced sounds on those records. I think that's probably what he's referring to. And again, to me, it comes down to a line, like how much. But once you're starting to do vocals and instruments and stuff like that, which a lot of bands are doing, that's to me where the problem is. But make no mistake, at the end of the day, my preference would still be a band that truly plugs in and just plays live exactly as it is. I just saw one, Stone Temple Pilots. It was funny because when I went backstage after the show and I was talking to Dean, their guitarist, I was like, man, that's so good. So good hearing a band just plugged into amps playing. And he goes, yeah, right? It's not a lot of that anymore. There's no click tracks, no lock to a grid, no laptops. I go, yeah, thank God, man. But again, there's different levels. It's not one size fits all. It's to what degree, what's happening. Here's Tom in New Jersey. Hey, Tom.
Eddie, how are you?
Good, Tom. What's going on?
Just wanted to update you about Mark Weiss's expedition in Jersey Shore here in Asbury, 1100 Asbury, Ocean Avenue in Asbury.
Yeah, I talked about it
a week ago.
Yep, I talked about it when he did it. I talked about after the fact when Eddie Vedder showed up and little Steven was down there. I almost went. I was at the Jersey Shore at that time, but I couldn't get there in time. But I almost went the opening that he did.
Had a chance to go last Saturday. Wonderful. Had a chance to even see Mark by freak chance that him and Mark Striegel were there. Great little showing. If anybody can make it, I would highly recommend it to anybody. It does go till August 17th.
And it's all his photos of Ozzy, right?
It's not just Ozzy. He's got his book and full displays of every photos.
Well, that I know. Yeah, Mark has been working that book for 5, 6 years.
And the multiple
he's relentless
magazines.
with it. What's that?
Right. And the multiple magazines that he's got out. He's got like 3 or 4 issues now.
Right. Yeah, he is I love him to death, but he is the ultimate pitch guy. Thank you, Tom. And most importantly, I'm glad he's healthy because he's battled some serious health stuff. But yeah, I mentioned this more than once, and if you happen to be by the Jersey Shore area, Asbury Park area, Mark Weiss, who's a photographer we've had on several times, who's done tons of photos over the decades, put out books, magazines, etc., is doing a photo exhibit there in Asbury Park. Let's say hello to Paul, who's joining us from Houston today. What's going on, Paul?
Hey, Eddie, it's your fellow Mustang driver from down here in Houston, and I just wanted to let you know I went and saw Stryper on the 17th at House of Blues, and speaking of live, yeah, they were all live. Matter of fact, Michael Sweet, before the show, he had an issue with his cord because I guess somehow he needed to plug it in and everything so that he could play. And so it was a great show. They did 17 songs and got out of there about 10:30. And one thing I wanted to
Paul, let me ask you something about that show. Did Oz play?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, I mean, because again, those guys have all gone through some health stuff, and I'm glad that Oz was able to get up there.
Yeah,
and play.
Michael was there, but I know he had his retina issues, and he was there.
Right.
He had his sunglasses on the whole show.
And this was at House of Blues in Houston, right?
Yep, July 17th.
Did they pull a good crowd?
Yeah, it was pretty full. Just a couple empty seats up in the balcony, but the rest of it, the floor was full. Everybody, we were all so excited to see them. They started out with sing-along song. They went all the way back to Yellow and Black Attack. They did Loud and Clear. They did Sorry, The Valley. They did their cover song, Breaking the Law, off the Covered.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great night. I just wish they would have done an encore, but they didn't do one. And they brought along a band called Hedris. They're like a progressive metal, according to Spotify. And they got like 5 guys in the band, but they only had like a trio out on tour, and they're from Dallas. But the big thing I wanted to let the world know about them is they're good and everything, and they're from Dallas. And the thing that I wanted to tell everybody is that Stryper made sure they provided them with a grant so that they could go out on tour with them for the whole tour. So Stryper was paying for them to be out there.
Is that right? Why is that? Did they win a contest or something?
No, they just mentioned it before they went off stage, and they pretty much just played their set straight through, their little bit of time that they had. And
okay,
but they wanted to make sure that the people in the audience knew that.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I didn't hear anything about that. Well, thank you, Paul. I appreciate your Stryper report there, and maybe I'll see you on the 9th of August, which is a week from Sunday. I will be in Houston once again at Warehouse for the Sunday Fun Day afternoon show with some tribute acts, including Lights Out, the UFO tribute featuring Andy Parker, the actual drummer of UFO. I hosted a show with these guys a few weeks ago in Illinois. Absolutely phenomenal. They got Mark Bowles singing. And I said, I keep calling them a UFO tribute, but they actually have the original drummer from UFO in the band. And considering you got a ton of bands out there touring as the band with maybe one or no original members, I don't know. Is it even a tribute? I don't know. So I'll be with those guys at Fitzgerald's in San Antonio next Thursday. And is it next Thursday? The 7th. No, it's next Friday. And then in Houston at Warehouse next Sunday. Stryper, the reason why I asked about Oz playing is because Oz has had serious health issues. He has had multiple operations for brain tumors. And if you've talked to Oz or you're lucky enough to know him, it is amazing that this guy, with all he has endured and all he has gone through, has an unbelievable disposition about it. He just always has a smile on his face. He always acts like it's no big deal. He'll tell you about it while smiling. It's crazy. I only wish I could be half as brave if I was ever, God forbid, faced with some sort of major medical thing as Oz Fox has been. What an incredible example. And just keeps plowing through. But the reason why I wondered if he was playing live is because Michael Sweet recently said online somewhere that the next Stryper album, he's playing all the guitars on it himself. He's, it's usually him and Oz, but he's playing all guitars himself. So I don't know if that was a logistics thing or a health thing related to Oz. The other thing that Paul brought up in that phone call was he said that the band did not do an encore. And look, that could be for a couple reasons. That could be because they're up against a curfew, or it could be for another reason, and I've seen more and more bands doing this. They just get rid of doing the encore altogether. Because most people know when a band walks off stage that they're going to come back out and do 2 or 3 songs more, especially if they've left their 2 or 3 biggest songs out of the set. And I've seen more and more where artists will say, hey, look, this is the point now where we're usually going to walk off and pretend for you guys to make enough noise to have us come back out. So we're just going to play the songs now, and you don't have to do that. We're not going to pretend like we're not coming back out. So I don't know how you guys feel about that. Maybe that's something worth a discussion at some point to get some feedback. But, some artists love the idea of walking off and the house lights stay down and maybe some lights on stage flash, and you're like, wow, are they going to come back out? Maybe you hear a guitar tinkering a little bit, like, oh, they didn't leave totally yet, Oh, and here they come, and then the lights go back up, and they're back again. Wow, we're going to get more songs. And then other people are like, just get to it already. Don't do the fake 5-10 minutes like we're not coming back unless we make enough noise. Now, there have been cases where I know where bands have felt like the crowd has sucked and were supposed to come back out and say, you know what, screw it, let's not go back out. So, I've seen that too. So it's not always completely staged and canned, but most bands know they're going to come back out. The crew knows they're coming back out. The audience knows they're coming back out. The sound man knows they're coming back out. It's all scripted. But they pretend like they're not making enough noise. We're not coming back out. But it's been a little bit of a move lately where it's like, you know what? We're playing 90 minutes. Here it is in one chunk. And we did all the songs that we're going to do. Forget about the whole house lights and making noise to bring us back out. I don't know if people have a preference on that, but some artists certainly do. All right, my thanks to Jared James Nichols for joining me today. Thanks to all the great guests from throughout the week. Chris Jericho and PJ Farley back on Tuesday. And yesterday, of course, our drummer doubleheader with Carmine Appice and Fred Corey talking Cinderella. If you missed any of that stuff, you know the deal. It is on the SiriusXM app. So go punch in my name or Trunk Nation. It'll all come up. You can get caught up with anything you want over the weekend. Tomorrow, a little hodgepodge of everything from the week. And then on Monday, back live with you guys, starting at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. Again, I am seeing AC/DC and the Pretty Reckless here in Vegas on Saturday, so I will give you my full recap of that and whatever else I get into on Monday. And, of course, I want to hear what you guys did over the weekend on Monday as well, or anything you want to hit me with. So we'll start the week in free-for-all mode at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, right back here on Faction Talk. Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you then.